Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and this is another episode of Living Enlightened Every Day. Today, I am speaking with special guest Dennis Merritt Jones, an award-winning author, speaker, mentor, and spiritual leader. You're going to love this. And when you do, make sure you hit that like button, the subscribe button, so you'll get to see all of these great interviews and share it with a friend. So today we are talking to author, speaker, and mentor, Dennis Merritt Jones. Throughout his lifetime, Dennis Merritt Jones has been on a quest to inspire and lift people to a higher expression of life. His personal vision is guiding people to their purpose, knowing that when one fully awakens to who they are and why they are on the planet, they begin to naturally share their gifts with humankind and in the process create an enriching life for themselves and the world around them. In other words, he inspires people to love their life and live their passion. And he has inspired me to do just that. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Dennis has authored just so many award-winning books, and I'm going to mention a few here. The Art of Abundance, a personal favorite. 10 Rules for a Prosperous Life. Your Redefining Moments, Becoming Who You Were Born to Be. The Art of Being, 101 Ways to Practice Purpose in Your Life. And The Art of Uncertainty, How to Live in the Mystery of Life and Love It. Dennis, I personally know that all these are deep and profound books, but I have to imagine that that last one, The Art of Uncertainty, must have come in really handy these past few years during COVID, where so much of how we have come to live our lives changed overnight all over the country and all over the world.
It has. When we moved from California to Florida 7 years ago, I had to reread the book to make ourselves feel comfortable with what we're doing because we literally stepped into the unknown when we moved here. Rented an apartment online and moved out here not knowing where we were going to live. It was quite an exercise in trust and faith, and that's what the book is about. Yeah.
Well, I love the titles of some, your books. You have a little series going, The Art of, and it's not something you would normally put together, the art of uncertainty. But when we realize, and all of us do at some point, that the only constant in life is change, that to really see and sense that for ourselves as an art,
Right.
that we can practice and engage
Exactly.
uncertainty.
Exactly. My idea or my goal behind the titles of the art of trifecta, if you will, is that artists are present moment. They're creative and they look at they're able to look at things through a different perspective, and that's I think when anytime you're taking on the concepts of what these books are about, you have to elevate your ability to see between the line, read between the lines. So living in the present moment is an art, and I think that everybody has their own approach to how they want to do that. But the book gives you all the books that I write give mindfulness practices, which help you bring the concepts of the book into the present moment for application, which is the key.
I love that. I love that you have this big highlighted section at the end of the book with practices and with the key ideas and with the thoughts that really stand out or really should stand out for us. You kind of guide us
Right.
to what
And
is
those are
really
those
important.
are at the end of each chapter of the book.
Right. Oh, that's what
So
I meant. Chapter.
so it's they're you take the concepts that are presented in that chapter, and I love what Ernest Holmes once said: "Realization without application is hallucination," which means you can have all these great ideas, but if you're not able to apply them, they're for naught. And so the mindfulness practices help you take the concepts that you read and apply them in your life in the moment, which is the key.
I agree. I agree. So I mentioned a minute ago that Dennis has inspired me to love my life and live my passion by mentoring me. And he really helped me to find my authentic voice, my personal expression, and to clarify, this is something we really worked on together, my purpose. And not just in life, Dennis is we can take our purpose in life that we've clarified, and then we create, or from that space create, understand our purpose for this book or for this relationship, my relationship with my son, all these things. And when we realize it, we start to build this cohesive life that is integrated. It's like a key word for both of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, integrated. The word integrate comes from integrity, integre, which means to bring all the parts together to the whole. And that's a key practice, is to be able to integrate what you're learning in a way that is applicable to your life. And
Yeah.
that's not an easy thing to do unless you're willing to hold yourself accountable every given moment of every day, which is why I teach mindfulness, which is learning how to bring yourself to the present moment and become the witness of what's going on.
Right.
Here in your heart too.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of that witness consciousness where we can just watch, because when we're really being the witness, we're not, if we're truly being that witness, we're not judging, we're just looking and we're thinking, I'm a little out of alignment with my values right
Yeah,
now, or
the inner observer,
yeah.
it doesn't judge. The authentic self, which is what the book You're Redefining Moments was all about, is learning how to become the discerner of your own thoughts, deeds, and actions without judging yourself or beating yourself up for it. And that book particularly I like because it takes the reader back to who they were the moment they were born, before the world got a hold of them and told them who they were or what they're supposed to be, and to self-define yourself from the place of the original self, who you came here to be.
I love that. It's beautiful. So, in the mentoring process that we do, it was an amazing experience for me. It led me to understand the importance of mentorship. And Dennis, in particular, was so powerful at helping me and others unleash our unique creativity, because he gets in tune with his highest self, and I feel like, can really see and sense our unique individual creativity. So what he's telling us to do isn't what he would tell anyone to do. So I thought that was amazing, and I looked back at what we actually did in each session and what we did overall, and it felt like there were sort of these three steps, contemplation, or this inner contemplation, what we might call prayer, um, insight. We kind of move into insight or divine intuition, or just trusting our gut when we have this new idea or new insight, and then that leads to really an inspired action and getting out of the box. In other words, we have to get past what we know how to do and move into the unknown, what we don't know how to do, maybe what we've never thought of doing. And that's where Dennis as a mentor really shines. But first, before anything, we really define for ourselves that purpose and values. Do you want to talk for a minute? It was a really powerful process for me, defining, realizing, which is a good word for, I use that a lot, making real my purpose and values. And you have a process for that you, I would say, are quite well known for.
Well, I think purpose is what life is about, and realizing that we're not here by mistake or by accident, and that we each have. We agreed when we came to, when we were born to come here, to be a divine representative of infinite intelligence, in a unified but a unique and individualized way. And so we can't really bring the gift of who we are to the planet until we realize who we are, and also that that we come, the gift that we bring to the planet is already contained in the life we have. We just have to give it permission to evolve and to unfold and reveal itself. That's the process, is trusting yourself enough to sit down and go into the void and hope, not just hope, but to know and understand that that which we need is always being given to us when we're ready to receive it. Guidance, I talk a lot about. I just started a new book. It's been a couple of years, 4 or 5 years since my last book, and so I realized that I needed to have another mountain to climb. Because without it, you tend to wander. So I sit down every morning and I do the practices that we talk about. And one of the books that I recommend people read is, in fact, I've got it right here. I'm reading it again now.
Yes.
The War of Art by
The
Steve
War
Peterson.
of Art. I'll put it in the notes for sure.
Yeah, because that, he kicks people's butt. If you're an artist or a writer, it's a book you want to read because he really kicks your butt in motivating yourself to get back into the game and start creating again. And I've read this book about 4 times now before I write each book, and so it's really helpful to have he's my coach here, so to help me prepare for the game, if you were,
Yeah.
to jump into it.
Well, and that was something that you and I worked on too, is that our purpose shifts and moves. It probably won't shift and move dramatically, but those core values are there. But the purpose might just shift a little bit during time. For me, when my son was living here, he's in college now, and so my focus was much more family oriented. Uh, Focused on him, and that was really the high priority. And of course, now when they move out of the nest, he's handling himself. He's doing a great job. So hopefully, I did something right there. And now, my focus gets to shift and change again. So kind of like you creating that mountain.
But the purpose is always being served in every given moment. A lot of people think that the purpose is a point of arrival when they get to a place, and then they'll be on purpose, which that's erroneous. Our purpose lies in whatever's in front of us in any given moment. Yeah. And so your purpose when you're with your son is to be the highest expression of God or life as you can be as a mother, right?
As a mother,
as a guide, as a teacher, and then you move into a different place in your life where you're in the grocery store doing shopping, and all of a sudden your purpose is to be conscious and present with what you're doing and bring the sense of joy into the fact that you have this gift called shopping in the moment. That's your purpose in the moment. It's always about giving infinite intelligence the highest degree of unfoldment that it can have in us and through us at any given moment, irrespective of where we are or what we're doing or who we're with.
That's what I say. Great minds think alike.
You taught me everything I know.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing. It is funny though, as we move in these circles, it is true. We are, many of us say similar things. And isn't that the most wonderful thing that we can call, so many people in artists, and they may work with pastels or oils or watercolors, but they're never going to create, even looking at the same landscape, anything that's the same. And same with writers and spiritual leaders and mentors. We're just going to see things in a wonderfully unique way. I love that.
I think that's the intention. God didn't create anything to be exactly like something else. That's why there's infinite forms of expression. There's infinite intelligence. Would be redundant to have the same form of expression twice. And so every one of us is assigned a unique ability to express differently than everybody else. Even if we see, as you said, we see the same landscape, we interpret it through different eyes, through our perception and perspective is different than somebody else.
Yes.
So we're always in the process of creating, irrespective. That's why I don't believe in competition. There's no such thing as competition. We're all in the process of creating an experience for infinite intelligence to know itself more fully by means of us and what we're doing.
Yes, and I'm a big fan. I wrote that in I just had a recent local interview I told you about, and one of their little questions on the questionnaire was how what sets you apart from your competitors? And I was like, I don't believe in competition. I'm creating. I'm creating something very uniquely. I don't compete with anyone. I'm just
And that's what sets you
being
apart
me.
is the fact that you're just being you. You're not trying to imitate somebody else. Emerson said imitation is suicide.
Mm.
The minute we start emulating other people and their creative process, where part of us gets thrown under the bus because we're not supposed to be imitating anybody else.
No, and I think that's the wonderful thing about mentorship as well, is when you have a really attuned mentor, they're not it's not a formula. They're not going to give you what they give anyone else. I can tell you that Dennis's insights for me were and I think both of us could feel them in the moment, that they're very personal, and the way they affected me, of course, was very personal. The way you invited me over and over again to step out of my box, what was comfortable for me, and that's
That's just the key, Elizabeth. There's no sense, no way to create something new from within the field of what you already know.
yeah.
You have to come to the edge of your box and step into the unknown. That's where new creation takes place, and that's scarier than hell for a lot of people to step into the unknown and access your creative ability from that place because you don't know what's going to show up.
Exactly. And you don't know how it's going to be received, and you don't know if it's going to be, again, like this, the focus for that interview was like successful by other people's terms. It's all those things that we put on it. As we let them all go and we just create from our depth, from our soul, from our spirit, it's the most freeing feeling. It's the most, because it's like there I am and there I go. And then you make room for what's next, and here it is. It's coming up again, and another book or another piece of music, if for whatever ways that we all create.
Right.
Well, and I kind of wanted to talk about the creative process of mentoring that we mentioned, is for a big part for me is that inner contemplation, and we might call it affirmative prayer. We just take the time to relax our focus, our attention on that world of effects, on what other people think we should be doing, even on what we think we should be doing in that creative process, and we just kind of let go and sink into that inner contemplation, whether it's for 1 minute or 10 minutes, or sometimes on other days I'll need a good hour. It's
Yeah.
just,
Well, as you know, one of the things that we began each of our mentoring sessions was with a prayer of spiritual
mhm,
mentoring. It's to bring us to that point of receptivity and openness, and to elevate ourselves above attachment to having anything go a certain way. And that's the creative process, is letting go of needing to control it in the moment and just be free flowing. As you know, I really promote the idea of self inquiry,
yes, me too.
because and self-inquiry is a gift that's been given to us. No other creature on the planet has the ability to do self-inquiry except human beings. My dogs they can be aware, but they can't ask a question to themselves about what they're thinking. But you
Right.
realize what a gift it is that we can think a thought and then step outside of the thought and look at it and feel it and smell it and touch it and probe it and see if it's really what we want to be thinking. If not, to challenge that thought and introduce a new thought. Self-awareness is the key to evolving ourselves spiritually, mentally, physically, and every other way. But
Absolutely.
most people are so addicted to the doing, they forget about being.
Exactly, because inspired action is that third component, and for me and you, it comes after. Like it's only after the revelation, the realization has come through this contemplation, through this prayer,
Right.
through the opening into receptivity, because otherwise it is um it's just doing, it's busy work. And it may or may not have the results that we were hoping it would have.
Right.
But when it's divinely inspired and thought about, really contemplated from that higher place, then we put our that energy, that attention on it, and we know that it's the right thing to do at the right moment. We can feel that we're in harmony, we're in flow with our life.
That's because
There's
we're
no
listening.
greater feeling.
That's because we're listening to something beyond our own ears. You know, we're listening to some guidance along the way that is so unique to us. You know, when God whispers in our ears, it's not the same in everybody's ear. You know, we're going to receive the input differently, and if we're willing to follow that guidance, it's quite amazing how the creative process can unfold in ways that were serendipitous, the ways that we didn't even think it would. You know, if we're willing to follow that guidance.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great point. And I always say uh that that's my favorite saying about meditation. Insights and inspiration, revelations don't always come when I meditate, but they always come because I
Right.
meditate.
Could be a day later. You know,
It really could
not
be.
really. I mean, it's like dreams. You know, you don't know what messages are coming to you all the time. Life is continually trying to get our attention with gifts of ahas, but we got to be present in the moment to receive them when they come. And too often, our minds are someplace else, which is why I teach mindfulness and in such a emphatic ways that I think it's the foundation for evolving the self is to be present in the moment with the gift of the moment, which is, mindfulness is about showing up in the moment to receive the gifts that life is waiting to bestow upon us in that moment. We can't do it if we're not in the moment. We won't receive the gifts. I like to delineate the difference between mindfulness and awareness. Mindfulness is the ability to bring your mind back into your body and be present in the moment. Awareness is what you focus on in that moment. And it's
Mm,
coupling them together, making them a team is where the creative process really happens.
that's really powerful. Yeah. I want to go back to something you said before. I can't exactly remember what you said, but it reminded me of something you do say often, and maybe you can give some insight on this. You say for people to have high involvement with
Low
low,
attachment.
yeah, low attachment.
Be highly involved in the creative process, but with a low attachment to the results or how it's going to show up. The problem is, too many times when we're in the creative process, we have an attachment to the end result, thinking it's going to end up a certain way. It's like when I write a book, I have no idea how it's going to end. I have an essential outline, but I don't detail to a point where I don't know exactly where it's going to go, because that's the adventure. Is to see what wants to show up to to thread the ideas together. And you can't be thinking, at least for my own creative process, I can't be thinking about the end result and be created at the beginning too. I have to let it unfold naturally.
Yes, I think so too. And I'm probably even more skewed where there is no end result, which is why I need some focus and direction after the fact,
Right.
because I get so involved in that creative expression. And then I'm left with all this stuff. In my case, words, it would be these words or these downloads, I call them. And then it's like, what do I do with this? I wonder, And it's taking someone like you and some of the workshops that I've done, with you to really bring that into, oh wow, this is a workshop and a book and a creative expression. It has an order to it, and sometimes I don't even see that while it's happening. But
You
again,
know,
that's, yeah,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut
I
you
was
off.
just going to say that's a wonderful thing about collaboration and mentorship too, is someone can look at what you're doing and go, oh, that I get it, I see
Yeah.
that.
But also in collaboration like that, it's beneficial to have somebody else witness us and to witness our creative process, and to behold how wonderful it is when you dive into it without needing approval from who's observing you.
Yes. Very important. No one wants to feel watched and judged.
No.
You're doing it wrong. We had enough of that in grade school, I think.
Yeah. And that's always a difficult thing with mentorees, because some people, everybody who comes on board to do mentoring with me has an objective that they want to reach, and it's different for each person. And it's important that I give each person I'm mentoring free rein to go in the direction that they're guided to go, rather than where I think they should go. But at the same time, kind of like, a parent with a child, watching over them to be sure they don't go too far off the path.
Right.
High involvement, but low attachment to where you're going to go until it gets to the edge and you kind of reel it back in.
Yeah. I love that. And I just love that phrase that you use. It's just one of my favorite. But we talked a little bit about that inner contemplation, and then that insight or divine intuition. Can you speak on that a little bit of?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite subjects, actually. Intuition is in the animal kingdom, it's called instinct.
Mm.
And in human realm, it's called intuition. It's the voice of infinite intelligence. It's broadcasting 24/7 if we would listen. And it's always got information for us that will help further deepen our experience and to evolve our experience along the way if we're willing to receive it. We've all had intuitive flashes where we're guided to do something at the last moment differently than what we had planned on doing, and we've seen the results of that. But intuition is something that we have to stop and listen to it when it shows up. I used to sleep at night with a pad and paper next to my bed before the days of computers. And I'd get into intuitive guidance throughout the night on some project I was working on, or a talk for a Sunday morning. And I'd wake up and write it down and notate it and go back to sleep, because I knew damn well in the morning it would be gone if I didn't.
Me too.
And that's how the muse works. That's how intuition works. It's always broadcasting 24/7, but it's not repeating itself all the time. So you have to be available to receive the message when it's and download it when it's ready to do it, when it's ready to be available.
Yes, I agree. And sometimes I get those downloads. It's interesting because even when I teach meditation, it's like sometimes when I'm meditating, same thing like when I'm sleeping, I'll have these insights, these ideas, and they're so powerful that they do wake me up. I mean, now I'm awake, and I'll reach for the phone or the pad and write, jot down that note. But even in meditation, it's really, sometimes I have that, and it's important that I stop meditating and take that note down. And other times I know that it's the mind just kind of
Playing games.
running amok. That's right. And it's like I'm going to remember that later. I don't need to stop this meditation. And that's the observer. The observer can discern that usually for us, and make a very good observation. Am I just getting a little antsy here? Or sometimes you just know this is an answer, or a pointer to an answer, and I just need to pay attention.
And it's not always, in those moments of stillness when we're, meditating. Or I get inspirations when I'm driving my car.
Me too.
Sometimes I got to pull over and make a note because I know if I don't do it, then it's gone. It just floats right on by.
Well, that's why I love Siri, because I'll be like, "Hey Siri,
Yeah.
take a note."
Yeah, exactly right.
She gets it wrong sometimes, but
Well,
but the gist is there.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, in that third part of that creative mentoring process that I felt when we were working together is that inspired action. And that is where personally I would feel like I have the most resistance normally, because I like being. I just want, I'm
That's
just
the
being.
problem. You got to find the balance between being and doing.
That's right. That's right. That's
It's
why
real
I have
easy to
you.
veg. It's easy to veg out and just be all the time, right? But that's not, you know, it's a catch-22 because we strive to be present in the moment, to be available for intelligence, infant intelligence and whatnot to receive that and get download, and yet we can't sit on the sofa all day long and with the lotus position going along waiting for that inspiration. Once it comes, we have to apply it.
Yeah.
Realization without application is hallucination. So we have to learn how to dedicate space in our daily lives for action. I keep on my desktop on my computer to a to-do list, and I look at it every day to make sure that I'm doing the things I need to do in order to continue to be who I am.
Oh, I like that. Oh, that's a great way of saying it. And yeah, so of course, the realization that I had all these downloads and I could see it was a workshop at first, and it's like if I want to create a book, I mean, there's doing. I can't just hope
Yeah.
it makes it into a book one day. There was the doing, and there was um, putting that information into a program that looks like a manuscript in a book, and there was editing, and there was rewrites, and there was uh, all that those things and more, because in our day and age where we're visual, we're on the social media, we're creating things that aren't like a book isn't really just a book anymore. It's sort of this energy around it, these videos, this podcast, there's so many things. And you were really instrumental in helping me to step into sort of the social media part, I will say, because I didn't want to do that.
Yeah,
I was
well,
like,
I don't necessarily enjoy doing the social media thing either, but it has been proven that it's a way to reach people and to develop new relationships with people that you might not otherwise have. And and it's also doing our own creative process a disservice if we create something and then we don't do the legwork to take it to the world. And we're talking, that's the challenging part about writing the book is the easy part. It's getting it out to the world, which is a little more challenging, and that's where all the legwork comes in with social media and interviews and all the things that we have to do in order to stay, to not only build our platform, but continue to expand it.
trying to relate to those people who are supporting us. We're relating to them, they're relating to us, and there's something really beautiful about that. That there's all these people that I never could have met without, we grew up without social media, without, the closest thing we had at one point was a dial phone that
Yeah.
over each other, push button or something. You couldn't, how many people can you reach? And then now it's just seeing so many people who are interested in this work and these books and these teachings, and they're doing them, they're doing retreats and workshops, and we're participating. And it's this wonderful community that's alive and sharing these ideas. It feels so when I do the social media now, thank you, it's because it's part of my creative expression. So it's not that drudgery, it's that excitement.
Mhm.
It's that I get to share this idea and in my creative way with a video, or sometimes you've seen my videos on the beach. I'm just so happy. I can't stand it. It bubbles up out of me and I share, here I am on the beach. And this is what came to me. This is my little mini download. And it makes me happy. I can say that now.
Yeah, the key with social media is to not become addicted to it. We're letting it take our minds off down the road someplace. We see it as a tool, a business aspect that we use uh, to expand what it is our message to the world, but we don't become addicted to social media where we're uh, getting entangled in a way that is not productive to what we're trying to do as a business person. Which that's I have two Facebook pages, two different Facebook, I guess they're pages. One is personal, which I post pictures of my dog and my grandbabies and whatnot, and the other is my professional page, which is strictly business. So
Yeah.
I've learned not to commingle those two things.
Well, and I have the same thing, but I have to say that almost everybody goes to my personal pages. It's
Yeah.
it's interesting, but it's been good so far.
It's interesting. This is something I've noticed recently. I posted a thing. My dog went to over the Rainbow Bridge a couple weeks ago,
No.
and I posted that on Facebook, and I had literally 3,000 comments and hearts and all that stuff, which is wonderful, just wonderful. And yet I can take something, post something, a profound quote out of my book or some place that I pull it from, and all of a sudden I get a minimal amount of thumbs up from that. And again, it becomes wanting to be loved and liked and approved of is dangerous. We have to let go of that.
Well, and it's also, I think, you personally have a lot of friends and just people that have
Hmm.
worked with over the years and things like that. And most of us are really pet people or pet lovers or have our own pets, and so we can really relate to that grief and that loss.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
our
We
fur
touch a
babies.
common thread with a lot of people. It's true. If I was ever going to write another book, it'd be about dogs, because everybody's got a dog or loves a dog.
Well, and
And
you do comment about MacDoodle's attitude some
uh,
days,
I,
really showing
he,
you the way.
he was one of my master teachers. I miss him immensely.
Yeah,
Processes. It's difficult
it
to
is.
to say goodbye to a friend, and he's been my master teacher in a lot of ways. And yet, that's the process.
Yep.
High involvement, low attachment. Be involved in loving the dog, but not attached to how long he's going to live.
Yes. And I have my little Tabasco, and he has a heart condition.
Mhm.
So he's a King Charles Cavalier, and it's just every, just enjoying every little moment, enjoying every little thing. And honestly, he brings me so much joy. It's ridiculous sometimes. I just laugh. I laugh. And now my boyfriend has a doodle,
Oh,
a
really?
doodle, and she's 4. So she's just, I mean, we just laugh so much because they're so present with whatever is, the fly
Dogs,
that's buzzing in the room or the
dogs are
lizard
great
on the
teachers.
glass.
Yep,
Oh, she
they're
heard
great
her
teachers.
name and here she is. Oh, that's funny. She knows when she's being talked about.
Wow.
But yeah, so I think people relate on so many levels to that depth of feeling that we have for our pet, and I think you mentioned why they're so present. We can see some lessons in how they are. You recently sent out was it a newsletter about uh, your dog, or maybe I read this earlier, but the dog being present in the rain.
Yes.
Just being present to the rainy day, and it's just like we're
Not,
like, "Oh, man, it's
yeah, yeah,
raining. I can't do
exactly.
this. I can't." They're just like, oh, waiting for the rain to stop. It's raining.
I don't think they're even waiting for it to stop. They're just there, present.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
it'll stop when it stops, and
Yep.
I'll go look for lizards.
Great teachers, no doubt.
I just really wanted to thank you for this process and be able to share this mentoring process that has brought about this book for me, and so many other things, so many other gifts that I've received through our mentoring friendship and relationship, and that ultimately it's having that wonderful support system that we are doing. What is it? Honoring our creative energy, our creative self, and being guided and directed to it's like you said, high involvement, but not necessarily an attachment to what the end of that looks like, but knowing that there's a funnel, there's a finessing of that energy to a point, whatever that point might be, whether it's realizing our values, our purpose, and then being able to work in our life from that, or create in our life from that, or be in relationship according to that, so that our relationships are are more loving and more communicative and have this wonderful foundation that they're built on. All these things. There's just been a
You know,
lot.
there has, and I've told you this over the time we've worked together. You could be a poster child for creative inspiration and for follow through and doing the work because you do it, and that's what makes you successful today. Is that you're willing to grab onto an idea and run with it and develop it rather than be uh, looking. You grab onto it and you drop it, go to the next thing. You stay with it, and you're very one of the primary elements for mentorees is they need to be teachable. They need to be willing to receive new ideas and at least try them before they say no, you know. And mentoring is a interesting process because it's really accessing your own wisdom bank and sharing. The difference between a mentor and a coach is quite relevant, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Coaches can stand on the sideline and see what you're doing and make recommendations to do something different that they don't necessarily have not necessarily done themselves. Whereas a mentor works specifically from a wisdom bank of knowledge of things that he or she has done or accomplished, and then willing to share that in whatever way they can with their mentoring clients. Wisdom is nothing more or less than a collection of past experiences brought to the present moment and drawn upon to affect the future. And our job as mentors is to make our wisdom available to others, but not insist that they receive it according to what we think it should be, but to share it openly, saying, how does that fit for you? How can you personalize this idea and run with it?
And what was the first thing that you told me our very first session? Do you remember? We talked about it earlier. I can't give you.
I can't give you what you need. I can only give you what I have. And if those two things come together in the middle, we've got a deal. We can dance. But if I try to see what you need, that's not in my wheelhouse. I'm not being honest and fair with you, and to try to give you something that I don't have. But I'm, as you know, I'm willing to dig down deep into everything I do have and share that. But I'm not attached to whether you use it the way I think it should be used or not. It's up to you to do that.
Yeah, I
But
think
you had the willingness and to do the work, and that's the key right there. Is the D word, discipline. Too many people are inspired, but they're not willing to do the work, and it's a combination of those two things that make a successful writer. Or whatever it is you're doing. I have mentoring clients who are doctors and attorneys, as well as ministers, people who want to write books and stuff like that. A lot of the people I work with, they don't have any desire to write a book. Their desire is to become the best human being they can be.
yeah.
And that to me is a precious gift to be able to encourage somebody to find their gift. As I said, the gift that we bring to the planet is contained within the life we already have. We just have to drill down and find it and bring it to the world.
Yes, and we're all creative beings, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant. I mean, whatever. It's very creative the way God expresses through each and every one of us. So when we realize that it is a divine expression, then we're lifted. We're, like you said, we can find our highest good in that, and the highest good for all those that we touch, and it becomes not just what we do, but it's an expression of who we are.
Yeah.
And that's meaningful. I mean, that's what we all want in life, is that deep sense of meaning and purpose.
Yeah. I love to say who you are matters. It matters immensely. But what you do with who you are matters even more.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, that's beautiful. And I am just grateful for you to be here with me. And I mentioned some of your books earlier, but also want to mention on Dennis's website, it's dennismerrittjones.com. All of his books are listed, his speaking engagements, anything that he has coming up. But his books come with these free study guides And if you're working together with your friends, a partner, or a group, you can take these deep dives into these spiritual principles and practices that Dennis presents, and they're right there on his website. So
Yeah,
you can learn more about.
yeah, every book that I've got written, I've got study guides which are free downloads at my website. Which I think that you need to give people tools to make it as easy as they possibly can be for them to be able to enter the process of assimilating new ideas and applying them in a way that changes their life, therefore changes the world. And
Yes,
study guides are kind of like compasses that help people stay in course with an idea.
absolutely. And I'm working on mine now. My study
I don't know
guide.
what better be.
My
There's
workbook, my study guides, they'll be on with my book too, but you can find them on Dennis's website, dennismerrittjones.com, and that will be in the show notes. So you can look for it there. And, we'll just ask the question, are you writing a book? Are you searching for your authentic voice? Do you need some help in the next stage of your spiritual unfolding? And if you'd like to work with, know more about mentorship with Dennis, just reach out to him on his website. He's very easy, as you can see, very approachable. And you can reach out to me at Elizabeth at elizabethcantey.com. Just let me know where you are in all this. I'd love to hear from you. And my book is available on Amazon. It's Living Enlightened, the joy of integrating spirit, mind, and body. And Dennis had a hand in
Yeah,
a
but I tell
lot
you
of that.
what, you did a great job of accessing an idea and bringing it in a unique way forward, which I think everybody needs to learn more about how to live in a state of enlightenment 24/7. And your book does a great job of guiding people into that process.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, thank you for joining me, and thank all of you for listening in. It's been amazing catching up with you, Dennis. Well, I'm Elizabeth Cantey. This is Living Enlightened Every Day. Join me each week for a new episode, a new insight into how we can love our life, live our passion. And I hope this week you laugh, love, and live enlightened every day.